Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers lose to the Mets. Dustin May has his worst start of the season. Chris Taylor might be out a few days. What does that mean for shortstop? And just making some sense of what's going on with the Dodgers right now. That's what's on tap, so make sure to keep it Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's number one meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/MLB60 and use code MLB60 for 60% off plus free shipping. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you never want to miss a day and become one of the everydayers like we are, make sure to subscribe in both of those places, and you'll never miss a day. Become a part of the everydayers. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio, usually joined by co-host Jeff Snider, but he's out today, so I'll be covering today's episode. But Jeff and I are both lifelong Dodger fans that currently cover the team, have been all over Dodger Stadium to watch, have been all over the country to watch the Dodgers, actually, and even outside the country for me, and have spent time the last few years doing a daily podcast every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes a day, bringing you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue. And that's what I'm here to do today. The Dodgers, the good thing was that they scored 6 runs yesterday. The bad part was that they allowed 8. And I'm here to get into part of the 8 runs allowed, talk a little bit about Chris Taylor, who's out for a couple days, in the context of shortstop, and Miguel Rojas struggling a little bit. So we're going to get into a few things. But first, we're going to start with Dustin May. Dustin May had his worst start of the season, went 5 2/3, gave up 5 runs, 8 or 9 hits, and only had 1 strikeout. And the strikeout part isn't that surprising. He isn't striking out that many guys this season in general. His strikeout rate, he has 13 strikeouts and 24 innings pitched. Yeah, not very good. It's his lowest strikeout percentage of his career. He's 14.1%. He's never been below 19.6%, and that was in 2020. Beyond that, he's never been below 22.7%. So, yeah, not missing as many bats, not striking out. And, kind of looking at his Baseball Savant page, and I don't know what this looked like before last night's start, but Dustin May doesn't necessarily stand out in any category. He's only got really 2 dark reds or bright red on Baseball Savant, which means he's in the 90th percentile or above, which means he's better than 90% of the league. His fastball velocity, which is literally just how hard you throw, and then curveball spin is at 100 percentile. So he's got some of the best spin on his curveball. We'll get into that in a little bit, but he's not really average exit velocity, hard hit percentage, expected ERA, expected slugging percentage, barrel percentage. It's all just kind of there, 66, 58, 62, 66. He's not necessarily limiting hard contact that well. Strikeout percentage and whiff percentage are blue, which is pretty rare to see on a pitcher that's had as much success as he's had so far this season. He's not getting guys to chase. Yeah, so like I said, he's not really doing anything that stands out. And before the start yesterday, at the very least, he was not allowing, limiting walks and hits. He had, a whip of 0.72, I believe, went into the game. It's at 0.92 now. And, we're trying to figure out, is it something concerning? Is yesterday's bad start like the sign of he was maybe overperforming? Or is it a matter of, he did have a new pitcher, new catcher, Austin Wins, since that Will Smith is hurt and Austin Barnes got a day off. And first time, Wins has been literally only been on the roster a couple days. And that could have been, maybe there was some sequencing issues. I did, notice that I didn't love some of the sequences they went with, but I also couldn't tell if it was the pitch calls or May, lack of command in the zone. He did leave a few balls up, and that's kind of where he got hurt. Um, and the Mets just did a good job of putting bat to ball, and sometimes it resulted in, some weak hits. Sometimes it resulted in some harder contact that just found holes or became base hits. So it's not like, oh my god, the sky is falling, but it is interesting to look at the numbers and kind of see what's, if this is something concerning about Maine. I think the one thing that kind of stands out is his curveball usage. Now, back in 2021, his curveball usage was at its highest, 22.8%. He's using that only 17% now, and so far this season. And when May first came up, he was, heavy sinker, peaking at 51% in 2020. That's down to 24%, which is fine. His sinker wasn't necessarily his best pitch. And, he's kind of made an adjustment into what kind of pitcher he is. But the biggest change is he's throwing his forcing fastball nearly 40% of the time, 38.8% of the time. And last year that was 23%, 2021, that was 19%. And then when he first came up, he was throwing that around 5-6% of the time. So that's the biggest change so far. Obviously, like I said, before last night, it had worked relatively well. And the thing with the four-seamer is, yeah, it's his hardest pitch. He's throwing it 40% of the time, mostly to lefties. He's thrown 121 of his 128 four-seam fastballs against left-handed pitching, which is interesting. Opponents aren't hitting that well against it. 208, 292 slugging percentage. But it does have an expected slugging percentage of 375. So he's getting a little bit lucky there. But it's not leading to a lot of swing and miss. It is leading to, limited contact, a few singles, a couple doubles. But yeah, he's only getting whiffs on 18% of those. He's not really getting any put away on it, 10%. So it's maybe the struggle is left-handed pitching, and this is something Jeff's talked about before, for him to be able to get lefties out. But other than that, all his other pitches are working relatively well, other than the cutter, which he doesn't use that often, 15% of the time, and also to lefty. So, May is struggling against lefties, and maybe that's what's hurting him more. The Mets did have a lot of lefties in the lineup last night, so that would seem to track well. But it's also only 4 starts in, so is it a matter of, are lefties hitting him well and that's an issue, or was it just a matter of, he had a bad start yesterday, and a lot of these numbers reflect that in terms of allowing hits. But what the numbers aren't just reflective of last night is swing and miss. And he has no pitch above 20% in whiff percentage, which is swing and miss. Before that, last year, we'll take a look. His sinker only had 14.8%, swing and miss whiff percentage. Every other pitch was above 25% or 24%. In 2021, he had no pitch below 21% in whiff percentage. In 2020, other than his sinker, every other pitch was above, or a changeup, which he didn't throw that often. Every other pitch was above 23%. In 2019, he had a cutter at 33%. He had his four seam at 20. So it's just been different. And I don't know if it's a matter of, we talked about May's been more efficient. So is this a matter of trying to pitch to contact, or, not necessarily chasing the strikeout in order to, remain in the game longer? Because, that has worked. He could have went the full 6 innings yesterday. And the full 6 innings, when you're giving up, five runs and 9 hits, you're still being efficient the rest of the time. So, that's a good sign. But it's a matter of, Dustin May, should he chase the strikeout a little bit more? The one thing that also stands out is, and a little bit of a double-edged sword, but his curveball, he's only used 17% of the time, pretty much equally to righties and lefties. 29 to righties, 28 to lefties. Has a 077 batting average, has an expected slugging of 246. It doesn't have the swing and miss, but it is effective. 077 batting average, 077 slugging percentage. He's only allowed one hit on this curveball, and it's been a single and a very small sample, only 13 or 14 plate appearances with that. But like I said, that is something that maybe get that usage up. This is his lowest usage of curveball in his career. No, it's not, but it is the lowest percentage of curveball usage since 2021. So, and 2021 obviously was delayed a little bit, but or was a lower percentage overall of games pitched. But either way, I think May's got to figure out what he wants to do. I think he needs to, adjust at least a little bit of his strategy in terms of being in the zone and trying to get chases out of the zone. The Mets just did a good job. And it might just be a matter of the Mets. The Mets did a really good job yesterday of not going after pitches out of the zone, of hitting the pitches in the zone, taking advantage of mistakes. May was leaving some balls up yesterday that they took advantage of. Pete Alonso just had a couple, good at bats and hit a couple good pitches for hits. So it's just a matter of maybe it was just one bad start, but May isn't getting that swing and miss, isn't getting those strikeouts. And if he's not, there's going to be games like this where balls find the hole, especially if you're missing up in the zone. 98, 99 is hard throwing, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get swings and misses. We've seen it with Bruiser Graterol, especially with a little bit of a sinking action like Graterol does have two in May, and you can't really attack the top of the zone that often. He was trying to attack the top of the zone, but he wasn't getting the ball high enough. And then when he was trying to attack the lower outside part of the zone, he was leaving the ball up. And, a ball outside and up, or a fastball up and out, is one of the easier pitches for pitchers or for major league hitters to hit. So I don't know if there's real concern for May yet, but I do think that there's, it's something to continue to monitor, and we'll continue to monitor that here. And hopefully, this was just a blip in the radar. So that's going to do it for Dustin May Talk. We're going to talk about Shortstop and Chris Taylor and a couple things that happened there. First, we're going to talk about So Rare, because today's episode is brought to you by So Rare. Our new sponsor is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collect increasingly powerful cards, and access next-level competitions and rewards. So go check out So Rare, get your team, build it out. There's 3 to 4 days. There's games going on. So Rare managers that rank at the top or near their leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which include more cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. So what are you waiting for? Go get your free pack of cards, get started, build your squad out, and win some prizes. So head over to sorare.com/locked on. That's SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked on to start playing today. Which reminds us, the Dodgers do play tonight against the Mets at 7:10 p.m. Pacific time. Clayton Kershaw's on the mound while the Dodgers try to get back in the win column. Catch every pitch of the Dodgers' hometown broadcast at SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Dodgers. All right, so shortstop position has been a little black hole for the Dodgers in terms of offense. Defensively, it's been okay, but Miguel Rojas hasn't hit very well. Chris Taylor, other than the 5 hits that he has, with 4 of those being home runs, has struck out 40% of the time. So, yeah, the Dodgers aren't getting much out of the shortstop position and might even get less now. Chris Taylor came out of the game early last night, had hurt his side on one of the times he had to throw the ball out there playing left field. So he might be down a few days. Not like I said, not like he was lighting up. He's hitting 125, 625 OPS, but that's saved by a 425 slugging percentage because he does have 4 home runs. But other than that, nothing else. Miguel Rojas is hitting 129, 161 slugging percentage, 343 OPS, has no one extra base hit. He's not striking out a lot. He only has 6 strikeouts and 31 at bats, but he's just not producing in general. And for a guy who only has 6 strikeouts, I don't even remember any significant, contact made that resulted in like a good out or a productive out. I'm sure he has a couple, but none that stand out. And so it's a matter of, okay, what are the Dodgers going to do at shortstop? And we talked about in our mailbag episode last week, talked about Tim Anderson as a potential trade candidate. But that won't be for at least another month. And that would mean that like the White Sox aren't playing well at all. So, you look at the Dodgers and you see, is there, anything in the minor leagues? And let me tell you right now, there's nothing in the minor leagues that, well, granted, who's on the 40-man roster that could come up for Taylor? Let's just say Taylor is an oblique thing and it ends up needing to miss more time. Well, Yanni Hernandez would seemingly be the guy because he's already on the 40-man roster. Yanni Hernandez is currently on the injured list and hasn't played since April 4th. So he's not going to be the guy. The guy that stands out right now, who's been the shortstop for OKC down there, is Luke Williams. Luke Williams is in 375 with an OPS over 1,000. He's got 8 doubles, 2 triples, 2 home runs, 13 RBI. He only has 10 strikeouts in his 56 at-bats. So that seemingly looks like, okay, that's the guy to call up and do well. And, it's not like it's one of those things where OKC, that league, the PCL league, is already known for offense to a certain extent. And Luke Williams, it's not like he's a top prospect. He was a 3rd-round draft pick, but back in 2015, he has bounced around. He obviously is with a different team this year, and was with 2 teams last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it's not like, okay, this is the guy. He's going to come up and he's going to be a hitter. Now, that's very possible he could. But the Dodgers don't really have 40-man spots seemingly available. The one thing they could do is if Taylor does need a couple days, take these next couple days. If Will Smith is ready to come back, then Austin Wynns could get DFA'd to get him off the 40-man roster, and that way Luke Williams can come up. But other than that, there's not anyone that stands out to me that says, oh yeah, that's an easy. Daniel Hudson, Jimmy Nelson are both currently on the 15-day IL. Like, I guess they could go to the 60-day, but that would essentially put them out until June, which maybe not something the Dodgers want. They just moved Alex Reyes to the 60 days, so he's not really available there. There's other than getting rid of someone that's either on the major league team or somewhat, none of the minor leaguers, their 40-man is pretty stocked up right now, so they don't necessarily have room to bring on Luke Williams. Like I said, unless they know that maybe Hudson or Nelson might be out till June or want to maybe send them out till June, and that's the way it goes. So it's not an immediate thing. What they really need is for Miguel Rojas. I don't know if I said Vargas earlier, but I've been talking about Rojas this whole time if I messed up the two Miguels. But what they do need is Miguel Rojas to just start hitting at least league average. Right now, he is way below league average. He's got, I think, Blake Williams from Dodger Blue. I think he tweeted last night at one point Miguel Rojas had a -2 WRC plus, which is 102% lower than the average. Chris Taylor's at 64 WRC plus, which isn't that great, but it's closer to league average than Miguel Rojas is. Yeah, shortstop, I don't know if there's a solution there other than hoping Luke Williams can replicate whatever he's doing in OKC, at least 70% of that up in the majors. I guess ideal world is Chris Taylor's fine, and they try to figure it out between Chris Taylor and Miguel Rojas, and both those guys just step up a little bit. The other, if Chris Taylor does end up needing an IL stint, then hopefully Will Smith is ready on Thursday. Austin Wynns becomes the roster casualty. And if he is, then he had a good game. He had a 2-run double, and he threw out Starling Marte trying to steal. So if he does go out, he went out like a champ, contributing, although obviously not enough for the Dodgers to win, but he contributed and he did as much as he could. And then they call up Luke Williams and see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. The other part of this is Miguel Vargas hasn't necessarily lit the world on fire. He's not, but him, I don't know. It's a matter of his on base percentage is still 400. His OPS is still 700, which is respectable. But again, that's carried by the walks. He has 13 walks and 40 at bats, or 43 plate or 53 plate appearances. He has 10 strikeouts in those 40 at bats. Not ideal. Yeah, he just hasn't made enough consistent contact for me to kind of stand out. But if he's a week or two behind from not being able to swing at the start of spring, then that'll should be turning around soon, hopefully. But can't say that for sure. Michael Busch is hitting very well down there in the minors. He's hitting over 330, I believe. He doesn't play shortstop, though. He does play second base, has played some third base, but now Max Muncy's back. He has home runs in 6 of his last 7 games, or 6 homers in the last 7 games, or whatever it is. So, yeah, it's what the Dodgers need is the guys on the roster to just start playing better. And if that's not the case, they don't necessarily have anything on the roster or in the organization that's going to help them at shortstop. And it's a matter of, you just got to wait it out, I guess. And what also could help is everyone else hitting well, and then you don't notice Miguel Rojas isn't hitting, or Chris Taylor can't stop swinging and missing at the ball. But we'll see. Like I said, there's no easy solution other than guys just playing better. So, all right, we're going to finish up with the bullpen and Alex Vesia specifically, and see, is there anything to be done there, because it hasn't necessarily been a great start for Vesia. So I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to be coming every day, or by listening every Monday through Friday. We're here for you. So go check that out. Remember, the Dodgers play tonight against the Mets. Clayton Kershaw's on the mound. I think McGill is on the mound for the Mets. So Dodgers should have the advantage pitching-wise, although McGill has been decent. But either way, catch every pitch of the Dodgers hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Dodgers. All right. Alex Vesia was in the game yesterday, and this one is a little, I guess, subjective how you feel. I don't think he should have been left in after getting the last out of the 6th inning or 7th inning, whenever he came in. Dave Roberts brought him in. He got the final out, brought him back out for the next inning, and then 3 batters later, the bases were loaded with nobody out. Phil Bickford came in and had a balk and a ground ball and a base hit. And after that point, the Dodgers were no longer winning 6-5. They were down 8-6. So, Bickford, a different story. He got put into not an impossible, but, bases loaded, nobody out. You're probably going to allow runs. The balk was, he did what he normally does, at least it seemed like from the broadcast. Maybe it was a little bit slower. It was a little bit slower when he came together and moving his foot. Usually it's a little bit more synonymous. So that's where the balk came in. Had that balk not happen and everything else happened the same way, that hard grounder to first might have been a double play. And then he still would have allowed maybe 2 runs, but we'll never know what happened. But either way, Vesia was the guy that loaded the bases. 3 hits. 1 was a swinging bunt. That was a little bit of luck, but the other 2 were legitimate hits. And yeah, I mean, Alex Vesia has allowed, I think, 15 hits already so far this season. He's allowed 15 hits and 31 batters faced. So he's not fooling anybody. He had a couple of appearances in there where it's like, okay, maybe he's back. And that could have been his appearance yesterday, but then, Dave Roberts left him in. I don't necessarily agree with that. I know you need to get some length out of some of these relievers sometimes, or you want to put guys in situations. But you look at Alex Vesia's baseball savant page, and it's very, very blue, which is not good. He's 16th percentile hard hit percentage. He's allowing hard hits. He's in the single digits in expected ERA, expected batting average. He's blue in barrel percentage and K percentage and chase rate. Even his fastball velocity, fastball spin, they're kind of touching reddish, which red is good on Baseball Savant. He's touching reddish. The rest is blue. And yeah, he just hasn't been good. And I don't know if it's a matter of, relievers are volatile, or if it's a matter of, his velocity is down slightly, not really. Last year's average fastball is 94.1. This year it's been 93.9. Last year he threw it 63% of the time. This year he's throwing it 65% of the time. Last year he allowed 21 total hits on his four-seam fastball in 600 pitches. This year he's allowed 10 hits already in 85 pitches. So yeah, not great. And like I said, I don't know if there's a solution. There's not necessarily anything different really than there was last year. His literally almost all the peripherals are the same from last year in terms of the fastball. He's maybe missing his spot. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking through, and I looked through earlier, and there wasn't much difference from this year and last year. Even in other than, yeah, I mean, last year he got more chase out of the zone. This year he hasn't got that. And, maybe he's missed, where Vesia lives is the top of the zone fastball. And maybe that's where he's missing so far this year. He's not getting it out of the zone as much as he normally does, which is, probably right. And a 94, 93, 94, 95 mile an hour fastball that's not out of the zone up is very easy to hit for major league hitters. So that's kind of where it's at. And you think, like, what can they do? Other than, like, a Phantom IL stint, there's really, or I believe Alex Vesia still has options. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alex Vesia still has options. The Dodgers only optioned him one time in 2021. So I'm pretty sure he has options. That might be the way to go, or that, or a Phantom IL stint, whatever the case is. If he continues to struggle, they can't just, it's a matter of, like, the Dodgers don't really have the luxury to be able to sit there and wait for him to figure it out. They can put him in lower leverage situations, but the way he's pitching lower leverage situations doesn't necessarily fix anything because he's allowing a lot of hits. So what is there? Is there anything down in the minors? And there is more options down in the minors than there are for shortstop, at least, for the Dodgers. And one of those options is Victor Gonzalez, who we've seen before, who has 10 strikeouts and 6 innings pitched down there so far. He has a 1.50 ERA. His velocity's up to, I believe, 96. He's been sitting around there. So that's one option. The other option that they have down there that's already on the 40-man roster, no. Well, Justin Brule was one. He came up. He pitched last night. Lefties, it's Adam Kolarek and Victor Gonzalez. Adam Kolarek has a 1.35 ERA, 6.2 innings pitched. He's not on the 40-man roster, so again, a move would have to be made there. They don't necessarily have too much left to make room for. Victor Gonzalez already on the 40-man, so that wouldn't require a move, so that makes more sense. Wander Suero doesn't throw lefty, but he does throw righty. He has a 2.57 ERA and 7 innings pitched. He's another guy that could be somebody they call up if they need a guy. So, yeah, it might be a matter of, if this continues, we see Alex Vesia get a Phantom IL stint, or maybe even option to go work on his mechanics, and we see what Victor Gonzalez can do. At this point, Dave Roberts only really has a Evan Phillips, and even then, Evan Phillips gave up 2 home runs the other night, and Caleb Ferguson are like his best relievers. Everyone else is struggling to a certain extent. He can't really go to the well and be very confident in what's going to come out of it, but that's just a matter of how it goes. And like he said, like, I still have confidence in all these guys, but they need to perform. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, these are guys that were expected. We were expecting the Dodgers bullpen to be a strength. And so far, it hasn't been a strength. The Dodgers haven't really, they're good on offense, but inconsistent. They've been pretty solid on starting pitching. Bullpen, not been really good. And this is just after I talked about how good it was this weekend, other than Andre Jackson. So that's just the way it goes sometimes. Alex Vesia, we'll see what happens. But it's not looking great. And I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, there's a lot of things that they just need guys to play better. And that's really what it comes down to. There's not too many options down there that are available, at least in the terms of a left-handed reliever. Victor Gonzalez, we can see what he has. But that's just the way it goes. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to check out Sirius XM on the XM app for the Dodger game tonight, 7:10 p.m. against the Mets. Just search Dodgers and you'll find them. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Become an everydayer by listening every day, Monday through Friday, when we're here for you. Make sure to tell your friends to become first. Tell them about Locked On Dodgers. And if they like it, tell them to become an everydayer, especially if you're an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, try to become an almost everydayer and then work your way up to everydayer. That will work out. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. You can find Jeff on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vince Samperio. DMs are open on all those accounts if you need to get a hold of us. You can also get a hold of us via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us. When you get in your car, if you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.